Hi everyone, it is Tim. It is the 17th of November. It is still warm outside. I am still outside. And I even have some palms and bananas that have still not been covered because it's so nice. And I know global warming is bad and everything, but right now it's working for me here in New York, so I'm not complaining too much. We really haven't had that much cold. We've had one really cold night and that was it. And the fact that I still have bananas up that I haven't cut down, and they're looking a little bad, but they're still there. So it's helped me with some time. So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I heat my palm trees and my bougainvillea. So the very first thing I use on, especially the Trachycarpus, which I have yet to do, is called a Thermocube. And I'm gonna zoom in here. This is a Thermocube. I'm sure it's showing up backwards here, but these are easy to find. They're on Amazon, they're in Home Depot, they're in Lowe's, they're in home centers. And basically they're supposed to turn on when the temperature around this box hits 35 degrees. So it turns on then. It will actually, if you have your Christmas lights or a heating cable plugged into this, it will turn on at that point. Now, it's supposed to turn off at 45 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning it'll turn everything off. And notice I keep saying supposed to. I find these things to be very temperamental. They work. Sometimes they come on at 35, sometimes they come on at 32, sometimes they come on at 30. So you just need to take that into account. Sometimes they stay on forever, even above 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and you need to look out for that, because if it's in a palm box and it's allowing the heat to go above 45, you could be in trouble with your palm. And I've had that happen a couple times. So I do use these, but you need to make sure they are working properly. I've had some fail. I know a lot of you on YouTube and Instagram have told me they have failed on you. Unfortunately, it is the cheapest option and they do work. And like I said, I mainly use these for my Trachycarpus because they're not in a box and I can really see if they're working or not. But yeah, I use them, but I don't love them. So what I've been using lately, and I started off a couple years ago, and my first one I got is a little bit complicated, but basically it is a temperature controller. Now this one has a thermometer on it that basically reads, you plug it in, you set what you want your highs and lows to be at. So it's a little bit more complicated than the normal one. And then it has a heating and cooling plug. And obviously we're not trying to cool anything, so we're just gonna plug into the heating. And you just have to set it up in your structure and it will read what's going on in there and keep it. So for instance, in my Robolini, I like to keep it a little bit warmer, so I have it set to go on once it hits like 42 degrees, and I have it set to go off at about, 49 degrees. So it's staying still below 55 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's not letting it drop down into the 30s where it gets really, really cold. So this one's a bit more complicated. This is a bit older than some of my other ones, but you can find these on Amazon. They're pretty easy to find. So this is a bit newer one that I got maybe last year, and I'll show you this one. So it's still a little bit more complicated in that it has a high and low on it that you have to set, but it only has one place. It doesn't have a cooling element. So you just have to plug it in. And lastly on this is a pretty simple one. It just basically is set to come on at a certain point and it will keep it at that temperature. And I like this one because it's simple. The other ones, every year I have to go through the directions. Do not throw them away, by the way, because the following year you will try to figure these things out and you'll be like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So make sure you save the box, save the directions. But this one's pretty simple. It's on Amazon right now, and or I guess anywhere you could get it. But it works really well. It's easy, and I like that. And lastly, just when you thought you hadn't bought enough stuff for your palms, I highly recommend getting a temperature gauge, which is basically you put the gauge in your palm box. You have a little remote that you can watch from inside the house. So especially if you have that Thermocube and you're like worried about it, then you can actually monitor what's going on. And there's all different kinds, but this one actually is monitoring 3 different palms at once. And so I just have to know which one is 1, 2, and 3. And it's telling me the temps inside the boxes so that I have an idea of what's happening. So all of those things are super important to make sure that you get your palm tree through the winter if you're living in a northern climate like I am. So I'm in New York State. It's zone 6B now, which is really, really nice. It used to be just 6A. But despite anything, even if we're having a mild winter, there's always that last week in January, the first week in February, which just seems to happen every year, where it gets super, super cold. And so you may say, well, with my Trachycarpus, do I really need to do this in this zone? Maybe not, maybe not. But there's always that 1 or 2 nights or 3 nights that really get bad. And if you do all this work, then you know they're going to make it through it. And especially if you're like me and you've got some Trachycarpus that are over 10 feet tall, you don't want to lose those trees just because you are a little bit lazy on that. So I highly recommend all these fun things. I don't use the temperature gauges on my Trachycarpus because I can literally look out the window and see if the lights are on because they're not in a box, they're just wrapped, which I will do over Thanksgiving, and I'm going to do a video on that. And if you look through my past videos, you can also see that. But all of this stuff is mainly for what goes in the boxes, if that makes sense. So all of you who do this, you probably have some better methods. And people text me all the time and email me and comment on here, and some of them have some really good ideas, and I'm going to try out some more next year. But I would love to hear what you're doing. Interact with me, please. It'd be fabulous. So here's one of my large Washingtonias, and you can see down below, I've got my temperature controller hooked up to my Christmas lights. It is ready to go. It's ready to turn on and keep this palm nice and warm for the winter. And I've got the temperature gauge way up in there so that it can be recording what it is kind of mid-plant, which is a good place to put it. And then down by the pool, I have my Washingtonia foliifera. Same situation. It's all ready to go here. And I'm hoping that this helps solve some of the questions people have had about how I do this. So if you have any more questions, put some comments in here. I love interacting, and please like and subscribe. And hopefully all of you are getting your palms ready for winter, and we will have a successful winter.